In The Art of War, Sun Tzu wrote, "Keep your friends close, and the nice guys on business closer." Need an education on how to grow your business? The nice guys are here to help. Learn about great customer service, networking, and how just being nice can help you prosper. Now, here are your hosts, Doug Sandler and Strickland Bonner.
Hey, nice guy community, welcome back, welcome back. My name is Strickland Bonner. On the other side of the microphone, Mr. Doug Sandler. Together, we are the Nice Guys on Business, and I am looking at a dinosaur riding a Segway right now. I might have to just take a picture of that.
Only in Las Vegas would that be going on. Nice guy community, because you may not realize this, Strickland once again is out of town. And I would like to say, I'm thinking that he's on a business trip, but I don't really know 100% sure since he's now talking about watching a dinosaur on a Segway. Strick, what originally what did you decide to do? Why are you in Vegas?
I don't think we need to talk about that today because Ron Karr is our interview today, and we'll just get off on a bad tangent if we do that, if we talk about why I'm out here.
So you'll have to go back to yesterday's episode if you really want to find out what Strickland is doing in Las Vegas. Some people just want to tune in for the interview. Some want to tune into the antics. So can you just give them a teaser so they can actually go back and listen to Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday's episode, why you are in Las Vegas? Well,
hopefully they listened to Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays, and so they already heard, so they don't need to hear it now. Just because we're recording it before we record those, it's no reason.
All right. This gives you plenty of time to have to think of a good reason why you're actually in Las Vegas. You haven't been able to formulate that in your head yet. That's fine. That's fine. But I can tell you one thing I can promise you, though.
Yes, what's that?
I can give you the Nice Guy's promise statement, which is to provide a learning experience that is entertaining and adds value to your life. If you don't feel like we have accomplished that, could you just let us know? The best way to do that is on Twitter at DJ Doug. Forget ever having Strickland's Twitter handle because I've been tweeting him for the last month and I don't think he's responded even once yet. Have you checked Twitter?
Why would you tweet me? You know I'm not paying attention. If anybody's paying attention to that, it's Anna, and apparently she's not. But, it's all good, so whatever.
I can tell you why, though. I can tell you why, and why maybe as a salesperson, speaking of which, salesperson Ron Karr, who was our guest on today's show, is a salesman, excellent guy, will teach you all the ins and outs and the right way to build relationships within a sales funnel. But Strick, the idea behind having a Twitter account and actually engaging is to build relationships, which in turn will help you move more people to our podcast. And that's really what we're looking to do. So maybe just once a month, just touch base with your Twitter account. When you get on there and you look at notifications, how many are there usually? It's probably like 1,000.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I guess I could do that. I guess I could do that every once in a while.
All right, well, let's talk about our guest Ron Karr today for a moment. Now, Ron is actually, or was, I don't think he's the present president of the National Speakers Association, but if you listen closely to his accent, he definitely sounds like a strong combination of Tony Soprano and Bruce Springsteen, and maybe a little bit of Chris Christie thrown in there as well.
He's got the New York thing going on, huh?
He definitely has the New York, New Jersey kind of, but and he looks kind of a little like the three of those guys together. So interestingly enough, there's not a woman in there to make that child, but we'll figure out how to make that work. But Ron's a great guy. He was introduced to me through Jeffrey Hazlett from the C-Suite Network, and just talks about the obstacles that we have to overcome in order to be a tactical and successful salesperson. A really good interview. Ron does a great job of explaining his journey and his and all of the experience that he has. Real good job.
He has his new impact system, the art and science of significance, that is really all about more scientific ways of looking into getting yourself more customers.
Yeah, neurolinguistics. I mean, do you understand any of that stuff, like the psychology of selling? Do you know?
No.
You have to deal with any of it?
No, we got to listen to the interview to find out all about
it. Great interview, Ron Karr. Let's get to it right now and check it out. And again, don't forget to reach out to us, and especially Strickland on Twitter.
All right, here, let's get to the interview with Mr. Ron Karr.
Think about this for a moment. Bruce Springsteen and Tony Soprano have a baby, or better yet, Chris Christie's love child. That is our guest today. But even better, not only has Ron Karr served as president of the National Speakers Association, but if we listen closely, he might even play the lead guitar for us, a little bit like Springsteen. Maybe not. Much better than I would, though. Ron has, however, overcome some pretty big challenges to rise to the top of his profession as not only a professional speaker, but as a sales trainer, a customer service guru, and author of a great book called Lead, Sell, or Get Out of the Way. He's here to tell us a few great stories. Welcome to the Nice Guys on Business podcast, Ron Karr.
Thank you, Doug. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, are you a lead guitar player, or you can't go there?
I can't go there.
So I love it because I had a chance to watch a lot of your videos and some of the YouTubes that were out there. I think we were introduced from a friend of ours that we might have in common, Jeffrey Hazlett. What's your involvement with C-Suite?
So I'm on the advisory board, and I've known Jeffrey for 20 years. So when he started the organization, he asked me to speak in San Francisco. And Jeffrey's just a talented guy who knows how to build organizations and help people. So it was a good fit for him and I to come together on this. And plus, he did a TV show on my book, Lead, Sell, or Get Out of the Way, the C-Suite Book Club.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. So let's talk about that for a second, because it's really interesting to a lot of people that are in our Nice Guy community. They're entrepreneurs and they're building their businesses as well. What's the biggest obstacle you find that salespeople have to overcome today?
It comes down to two words, task or purpose. And I think that many people are not driven by purpose, but they're driven by the task. So they're saying, I've got to make a sale today. I got to make a sale today. And many times the sales that they're going after don't make sense. And you have to be driven by your purpose. What kind of company do you want to be? And what's the right market? What's the right segment? What's the right market segmentation for you? And what's the right deal for you? So one of the biggest mistakes that I see a lot of entrepreneurs or small to mid-sized businesses make is, for instance, they do too many RFQs, too many bids, because they think that they're going to get the business just because they submit a bid.
Yeah.
But the reality is, if you're just being given a bid, but you have no relationship with that company, you're just one of many people helping a procurement officer do his job with very little chance of getting the deal.
So true. Yeah, my dad always used to say to me, if you don't know when you submit the bid that you're getting the bid, then you're not going to get it.
Right. The relationship should be built before the bid's even been given. It should be built with a company about the what-if conversation. Have you thought about doing something different? And then they get so excited, one of two things happen. They either go and just give you the business because you thought of it, or by law, they have to go and do a bid. But at least if they do a bid at that time, you're in the bid. You're controlling the bid because it's around your specs.
Oh, totally.
So one company that I'm consulting with, was doing $8 million, and they did 450 bids. We got them down to 250 bids, and they're doing $15 million now.
It's amazing when you start to free up the time from all of that bid writing. It is incredible how much more creative that you can be, and how much more focused you can be on the real business, which is going out there and finding what your big purpose is all about. Is that fair? I mean, is that
you hit it right on the head, Doug. I mean, think about this. I mean, if you're a technical company, to do a bid, it can take anywhere from an hour, 2 hours to a couple of days, and it's many times not one person, but it's a couple of people involved. And you add up all those man hours on an example I gave of that extra 200 bids that they no longer do. Think about how that company now was just freed up to go and build the relationship with the companies that were in their strike zone, and have better results with that at higher margins. That's what you need to do. So that's why go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go. I love the track that you're on. I'm just gonna keep throwing stuff at you in your direction, because I think it's so good what you're saying. It's so true.
So I just think that we have to be really clear who we want to be. Take myself as an example. I've been a professional speaker for 28 years, and I speak before Fortune 500 companies, 100 companies, but my consulting is not usually with the Fortune 100 companies. It's usually with the small to mid-sized companies. And why is that? Well, because they tend to pull the trigger faster. They'll make a decision faster. There's no bureaucracy. And they'll pay the money because they really want to get to that next level. So by going after that market, I gain what I call velocity. I'm getting business faster. I'm having better results, and therefore I'm getting better referrals. That's a great market for me to be in when it comes to the consulting. For the speaking, I go into any kind of size of company because we know we can help them.
What's interesting, though, it seems to be challenging from a practicality standpoint. Yeah, it makes sense. Let's not do 450 bids this year. Let's do 250 bids this year. And then the guy says, well, yeah, but that's not real. That's not just, how do I just do that? I can't just turn a switch. Or is it as simple as, yes, you can turn a switch, you just got to get your act together?
Well, okay, so here's the deal. The first question you want to ask yourself is, all the bids you're doing, what's your closing ratio? And if you're only closing 15%, then you know you're sucking up a lot of resources with little return.
Yeah.
And the thing that most entrepreneurs are afraid of is they think that if they don't do the bid, they're losing business. Well, not really. You've already lost the business because your closing ratio is so low. So I think we have to change our mindset. Mindset's a really big deal that I coach executives on. And so the first thing you have to say is, what kind of customer is in your strike zone? What kind of company could really use your services and finds a value for what you do? So when you go and sell it, it's not going to be that big a complex sale. You're going to close it faster, and you're going to gain velocity, similar to what I just talked about my own consulting. When you can narrow it down in that area and concentrate on those kinds of companies and those deals, you'll see your closing ratio increasing, you'll see your sales cycle decreasing remarkably, and you'll be able to increase your bandwidth to do more business with the same limited resources you now have.
How do you get to the point, though, where you even understand what that is? Because you said a couple of things that are pretty key, and I think that I'm just trying to examine my business and the businesses of those that I talk to as well. Sometimes it's not as simple as just saying, well, here is my ideal customer. Or is it as simple as saying, I need to create in my mind, or for my offerings, this has to be the perfect client for me. This is the only account type that I'm going to go after, and anything else that's outside of that, I just have to put my blinders on. Is it as simple as putting blinders on and only working with a certain level of client?
Well, the answer is yes and no. I mean, it is as simple as getting a hot list of target companies you want to go after, but then you need to qualify them and see if you're correct. If the answer is yes, then you keep working on them. If not, then you take them off your list and add somebody else. So you may make some mistakes in the beginning, but you have to have some kind of direction where you want to go to. But then the second question you need to be asking me is, once I have identified the right target company, what kind of conversation should I be having? Because most people are having the wrong conversation.
All right, talk about that for a second, because I think, again, that is key. How do you know the right conversation to have with this potential customer?
Most people are having what I call a transactional conversation versus a enterprise conversation. A transactional conversation is when you're talking about the products that you're selling. So if I'm building a heat exchanger, I'm just talking about the concept of heat exchangers. Do you have a need for a new heat exchanger? The answer is no, so you have no conversation. Or if the answer is yes, you're going straight to specs, but you haven't really developed a strong relationship. You see, there's two parts to influence. There's the heart and the mind. When you lead with your products, you're leading with the how, but there's really no relationship developed. What you need to do is you need to get them emotionally involved in the heart. You need to ask them where they're going as an organization. Talk to me about where you want to be. Talk to me about the challenges you have in getting there. What are the gaps? And then when it comes time to finding opportunities and how you can supply your products and services, you now can do what I think is so critical. You can present your products and services in context to what they just told you as to where they want to be. The problem is we're selling without context. We're selling products and services without establishing any kind of relationship about where they're going, where they want to be, the issues that they're having, and we expect them to buy off on that, and they won't. Let me give you an example.
Yeah, do it.
Edward Jones was a client of mine, and it took them 5 calls to get a new investor online. And so I went out with some of the reps, they were prospecting, and I saw that in the first initial call when I went into someone's home, they spent 20 minutes doing the relationship conversation, like, oh, I see you're a Bears fan, talk about football, talking about the pictures, of the grandkids. And I can see the prospect's eyes looking up like, what are you doing in my home? And so what I said was, let's cut that conversation down to a minute or two, but get into the conversation that's going to really build a relationship. So you go into the person's home and say, hey, I see you have a really nice family. And probably what happens with your money is really important to you, right? And they go, yes. Well, I don't want to waste your time, so if I can, just let me ask you one important question. When it comes time to investing your money, what are the 3 critical things you need to get as a result of your investments? So now all of a sudden...
Now they're going to tell you what it's going to take to sell them.
Yeah, and we actually tested this in the video because we actually brought in some of the key customers. We had them sign waivers and knew we were going to videograph them. Mm-hmm. We put them in rooms and we asked this question. When you ask that question, what are the 3 things you want? People's eyes all of a sudden roll up. And psychologically, there's a change in someone's mind. See, we're using a lot of neuroscience right now to talk about how to influence people because the findings that they're coming up are just incredible. Yeah. And there's 2 chemicals in the brain. There's cortisol and there's dopamine. Cortisol is a stress chemical, which we all have. But when you go in to meet a new customer, prospect, the cortisol is even higher because they're on guard, preventing themselves from being suckered into buying something.
Correct.
The dopamine is the chemical of clear thinking. It's a feel-good chemical. It's the chemical that you need a higher level of to have a creative conversation. So our job as influencers is to understand the environment we're going into, lower the cortisol, and get the dopamine going. So what we saw when they started rolling their eyes upwards and we asked, what are the 3 things you're looking for? All of a sudden, their thought of us trying to sell them something immediately left their mind. They went straight to what was important to them. Yeah. The barriers went down, and they started giving us important information that we can now have extensive conversations about and start presenting products and services in context to what's important to them, which would increase their closing ratio.
It sounds like what's really cool about it is it sounds like, all right, this is the old school approach to with a newfangled new chemistry attached to it, because it really is all about the relationship building and trying to find out what's important. We never knew, back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, people never knew why somebody that developed a better relationship with somebody closed more deals. We just thought it was the way to go. But there actually is science that will prove that what you're saying and what I'm saying is actually correct.
There is absolutely science. Now, look, people still have to like you, don't forget.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And they have to trust you. But they're going to trust you more if you're talking about them and what's important to them than if you're simply talking about your products and services.
So true. I mean, you've landed some big clients, and I was doing some reading about you in the research portion of my pregame here. I mean, MetLife, Morgan Stanley, UPS. You can't luck into deals like that. Is it those kind of deals are closed on the cortisol and dopamine science also, or is there something deeper than just that with the big deals too?
Well, the MetLife and Morgan Stanley were mostly speaking engagements. But if you take Cognis, which is a multinational chemical manufacturer, huge company, it used to be Henkel. I got involved with one division because all the divisions brought me down to do a 3-hour program on each day of that sales meeting for each division. And there's one division, the reagent division in Tucson. After the program was over, I saddled up to the vice president of sales, to the vice president of the division. I said, so talk to me what you're doing. He goes, look, we created this chemical reagent that cut in half the cost of mining copper. And it took us 20 years to develop it. And when we brought it out in the 80s, all the big copper mines were going bankrupt. And they started using our product, and we saved them from going bankrupt. Mm-hmm. So now what happens when you come out with a new entity? It works. So everybody wants to re-engineer and steal your business. So at that time, they only had 60%. They had 60% of the world market share, but only 25% of the largest users' business. And they were going to have a big meeting the following week. And I said, well, what are you going to do next week? Because, well, the bids are up in 18 months, and we have a meeting with the sourcing team. And now they say that our quality is we're number 3 out of 3 vendors, which was not correct. And so they brought me out to prep me for the meeting. So the first thing I said is...
So you're prepping, so just to make sure I understand this, you're prepping the chemical company for how they're going to approach...
That meeting the following week.
And who are they, with who?
They're going to meet with 18 people of the sourcing committee.
Okay, I got it.
And the bids will be up 18 months later. So I sat down with the 2 gentlemen, and the first thing I asked them was, what do you want from my involvement in the business? And they said, well, we want to win the bid. And I said, that's not my question. And this is key for your listeners. If you can take out a clean piece of paper and write down the destiny of what you really want, what is it? all of a sudden they started speaking emotional, in the heart. I said, why do we have to bid? We started this technology. We saved these companies. I said, okay, so you want a negotiated agreement. You don't want to bid. They said, that's right. What else do you want? For how long do you want to bid the deal for? 10 years, the life of the patent. Up to this point, that industry only bought by bid every 1 or 3 years, never 10 years. The last question, I asked them, how much do you want? Do you have 25%? They said 50%. I said, is that all you want? They said, okay, 75%. Then I looked them in the eyes, and this was the game-changing statement I made to them. I said, you can get a negotiated deal for 10 years for 75% of their business, but you have to understand it takes a different set of actions to do that than win a bid. In other words, I challenged them.
Right.
They looked at me like, who's this jerk from New York? Now, at that time, I had no clue how we were going to do that, but I knew in my heart there was opportunity there because I knew they were doing maybe only 5% of what I would have them do. And so they bought in on that, even though they were skeptical. And they would go and interview all the people in that company, and every quarter we'd meet in their facilities and we put up on a wall all the things we knew, all the things we didn't know. They go back and ask those questions. And then here was a couple of game-changing things I want your listenership to listen to. One of them called me up and they said, we got it. We need to be like Caterpillar. I said, why? Well, in a mine, they don't control the price because that's the exchange. Mm-hmm. So the only way they control their profit is by no downtime. So Caterpillar has a man on site. So, if a truck, dies with a flat tire, they can fix it, and they're fixing it. So we got to be like Caterpillar. I said, no, you don't need to be like Caterpillar. You need to become the next Caterpillar, the next benchmark. So we started talking about what if we put a man on site? And we listed all the things that a man on site could do and add value for. And I said, okay, well, you need to act first, and you need to supply that free of charge because, number one, they're not going to want it. But if they really value it, it will come to help you down the road. Make a long story short, it took a long time to get them to buy off on it, but they finally did. We put a man on site. We made an expectation. If we give you our resources, you need to put all your disposals at their hands so they can be successful. They loved the person. He became one of them. Yeah. It became so important that we coined it a Mindsight Services Program, and we trademarked it. When the bid came out, a big part of it was calling for a Mindsight Services Program. The other two global entities didn't know what it was, and they queried about it. And then the customer's answer was, if you don't know what it is, it means you don't have it. And that was one of the things that gave them the right to throw away the bid and go into a negotiated agreement. So again, we weren't just selling reagents. We leveraged the core competence.
Change the game, yeah. You changed the game.
Put a man on site, and I know nothing about chemicals, but it was a way of what I call when I speak in front of audiences. I always tell my clients, don't compete. You want to create.
Yeah, that's so great. That's so great. As a kid, you didn't. Maybe you did. Maybe you didn't. I don't know, because I've always been a sales guy for my business, and it's a business of me. So, does anyone grow up as a kid saying, "I want to get out of school so I can become a sales guy"?
I mean, some people probably have that as a.
I mean, you're a salesman. Do you?
Yeah, but well. One of my values that I bring is I'm always 5 steps ahead of my clients. And the reason I was 5 steps ahead of my clients is because I had a rather tough childhood. My father was a victim of the Holocaust, and unfortunately, kids of Holocaust victims had a very rough, abusive upbringing, because they went through so much. So I had to think 5 steps ahead, how not to get my butt kicked sometimes.
It's all right, you can say it.
and while it was a rough upbringing, I mean, this one thing about being 5 steps ahead and saying things clearly is what I bring to my clients and makes them so successful and makes me successful. So I do believe that our upbringing, regardless of whether it was great, challenging, or whatever, we all have things in our upbringing that have led to our strengths as individuals. And the question I would urge your entrepreneurs is, are you really looking at your upbringing? Are you really looking at your history, finding out what your strong suits are, and you're leveraging it? Most people don't even bother doing that, figuring it out.
No, you're 100% right. I had a moment, I think in the last couple of weeks, to watch a whole bunch of a video again on you and listening to your story, and I was seeking out. Okay, I want to know like what the core of this Ron Karr guy is all about. And what was great was that your story is so magnificent. I mean, you overcame some huge challenges. Can you spend a moment, if it's okay, just to share a little bit of your story so the Nice Guy community can kind of understand where you're coming from?
Well, one of my challenges I had as a young kid is I couldn't pronounce the letter R, so I was diagnosed with this condition, a speech impediment. It was called rhoticism, or as I called it, oticism.
Yeah, why they always do that? They give you the most challenging, like for they have a dyslexia for people that have a challenged spelling. Yeah, I mean it's got to be really hard.
But Doug, it gets even worse. Can you imagine having this impediment and being given the name Ron Karr?
Yeah, it's true. Oh my gosh.
So I was just mocked mercilessly, by friends. I was even given a nickname Wonka in college because what's your name, Wonka, and they put it Wonka. So I worked really hard to work on that, and I went through all the speech therapy and all that,
But Ron, you came from that to becoming the president of the National Speakers Association.
But Doug, in those years, that was not even in my sights.
I know. I'm saying that. I agree with you. I'm like, holy crap, Ron. I mean, what an amazing. I mean, it was like you were basically saying, pardon my French, you were basically saying to the world, fuck you. I'm going to figure out how to overcome this disadvantage I have.
Well, you're right. And there was no higher moment of satisfaction for me than when I sat on that main stage in Philadelphia being inducted as the 40th president of the National Speakers Association. I was on stage in front of 2,000 top thought leaders in the world, and I shared the story right at the beginning of the speech, and they were all laughing their brains out, but they had no idea. But to come from that ridicule when you're young, and then to become the president of the National Speakers Association,
what a great
it really was a moment of satisfaction. And I think for the entrepreneurs, what's it mean to them? I think that we all have issues that we deal with. And the point is not to let them stop you, but what can we learn from them, and how can we leverage them to get to where you want to be? I mean, we all hear things, people get paralyzed, they still make it. I mean, there's no reason for anybody not to succeed. What I always say to people is just keep digging. You're not digging enough. Just keep digging, and eventually you'll get there. And most importantly, make sure that your actions support your purpose.
Absolutely, 100%. And we sat through, or we not sat through because that sounds like it was drudgery, but we went through about 20 minutes of conversation. And I think that the thing people tend to key in on is the personal challenges that people love to hear a story. I mean, again, part of my dad's whole history was he talked about people used to go to the Tarzan movies not because of all the action and adventure. They like to see the guy go down in quicksand. They're like, okay, tell me about this struggle and overcome, and then the guy gets pulled out of the quicksand. People might listen to this episode and they might say, yeah, of course this guy's a successful guy. I mean, look, he was a president of the National Speakers Association. He's got all these great clients. The stuff that I fall in love with most of the time is the backstory. Like, well, how did you get there? I mean, people might say, I'm an introvert. Not me personally, I'm not. But they are listening and saying, yeah, he's out there. He's a guy that's got the personality and the style. I'm an introvert. How can I do it?
Actually, I'm an introvert.
I was going to say, I bet you probably started that way, right?
You know that most speakers are introverts?
Yeah, it's crazy. You have probably a much easier conversation talking to 500 than one person across the room, right?
Exactly. But here's the thing. The reason why you're so interested in it, and why most people are, if people just see somebody on stage saying, oh, he's so successful, he's written 4 books and the president of the National Speakers Association, they don't see themselves ever being like that, they're tuning you out. What draws them in is when you're vulnerable and you're talking authentically about your story. And I think for the entrepreneurs, when you're going out there, stop trying to sell somebody. Be authentic with your customers. One of the most powerful conversations you can have is, what made you start your business? What if you developed a product or technology, what was driving you crazy that led to that thought? Because when you can talk authentically about it, it's a more powerful story. It's going to resonate with your customers more, and you're going to have a deeper relationship built.
No, I totally get that. 100% on the money on that one for sure. Do you have time? I have just a few more questions. I would love to ask you that what I call the rapid fire round. It's just 5 questions, giving you a couple of seconds to answer. Just the top of mind awareness of the things that you're thinking about as I'm giving you these words. Do you have a moment for that?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. All right. So again, I'm going to give you 5 questions, one at a time. Literally, if you can keep your response to 20 seconds or less, it'll be the first thing that you think of that comes to mind. So here's question number 1. Being relatable. What do you suck at?
What do I suck at? Making calls, because I'm an introvert.
That's good. It's interesting. Somebody as successful as you are having a tough time making calls.
But I build my business around that. I go and speak. I'll get speeches in front of influential people, and that's how I get my business. So I built around my weakness.
Yeah, that's great. Be transparent. How did you pay your bills when you first got going?
Creatively.
Okay.
No, I mean, look, I've always dealt with debt. When the recession hit in 2008, I've been in the business for 20 years. My business dropped like any other speakers, 70%. And my new book was coming out, Lead, Sell, Get Out of the Way. And I still pulled the trigger to spend $150,000. So it was taking a risk, but it was a calculated risk. It could have put me in bankruptcy, but at the end of the day, it got me to where I am today because it was necessary. So don't look at how you pay the bills. It's what do you believe in and what are you committed to? And is it a calculated risk that you want to take, and then go find a way to fund it?
Awesome. All right. Great advice. Be confident. What do you do as an entrepreneur that is as good as it gets?
That I wake up every day being optimistic that it's always going to work out no matter what kind of crap I find myself into.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, positive mindset's so important. Be humble. What
It's not just positive mindset. It's the mindset that failure is not an option.
That's good too. Well, sometimes I wish not sometimes, all the time I wish I could adopt that, and maybe we'll have to figure out how to put that into my life. I got to sit in on a live keynote. I was watching some of your videos, and they're really incredible. Be humble. What experts do you need to call upon to make shit happen?
Well, I think that number one, you need a good. First of all, you need to have mentors. And mentors both inside your business and outside your business. Because if it's just inside your business, then it's all a myopic point of view. So people that outside your business don't have a vested interest, but can see where it doesn't make sense. So I think you need to have mentors. A lot of what I do and where I've been is based on mentors that I've had in my life. You need a good lawyer, make sure you're doing things right and you're not getting yourself in trouble. You also need a good bookkeeper or a financial advisor. And you need someone that can really sell the process for you. So those are the people you need in your corner. But I think it all comes down with the mentors. My biggest mentor was my mother, my late mother, Ron Karr. She was a woman ahead of her time. She was an economist. She fought in 2 wars. She was a high-ranking executive at Chase. And every time there was a downsizing, she had to reinvent herself because, women should not be in that position. She also found a way to keep value. And she taught me lessons of my life that got me to where I am today.
Excellent, Ron. And last one, be realistic. Where are you going to be in 90 days, and how far into the future can you see?
Where am I going to be in 90 days?
Yeah.
Where I'm going to be in 90, I'm launching a new brand, at a higher level from what we've been doing, called Impact, the Art and Science of Achieving Significance. So in 90 days, we're going to be being booked for keynotes on that new brand, and starting a new book on Impact, the Art and Science of Achieving Significance.
That is incredible. Wow, that's great that you can see that in such a clear picture in the next 90 days as well. How can our listening audience get in touch with you if they're interested in finding out more information about Ron Karr?
Sure. So a couple ways. Email is ron@ronkarr.com. And understand Karr spelled Karr. So it's RON@RONKARR.com. They can go to the website, ronkarr.com. And they can also obviously call us at 201-666-7599.
North Jersey man.
North Jersey man. Right?
Exactly.
And they can also go on Amazon if they want and get the CEO best-selling book, Lead, Sell, or Get Out of the Way.
Yeah, we'll make sure that we put all of your contact information, including the link to Amazon, right there in the show notes. So Nice Guy Community, just click on the show notes and you'll find access to all of Ron's information. Ron, one more quick question here. Do you have a cell phone anywhere near you?
Sure.
Okay, great. Do you have an iPhone or something inferior?
iPhone.
Okay, great. Go to your picture app.
Go to my picture app.
Yeah, what's the last photo you took?
The last photo I took. Oh my God. The last photo.
We'll know if you're not telling us the truth, Ron.
No. The last photo is 3 colleagues of mine threw a birthday party for me last Friday night for my 60th birthday.
Congratulations.
And Sonia has I don't know how old the son is, 10 years old, and he gave me a birthday hat. So I actually put it on my head, and the picture of me and him, he's sitting on my lap, and I'm wearing the birthday hat, and we're both smiling.
Nice. All right, go to your texting app. What was the last text message sent and received?
Oh my God, that I don't know if I could talk about.
Well, mine was probably the last one.
The last text message is from Doug Sandler. I'm on Skype waiting for you.
Yeah. You were 60 seconds late, Ron.
I know. I apologize.
No, I'm just kidding you. And what was the last one you sent?
To a friend of mine in my building last night. I'm downstairs. Where are you?
Oh, see that? You were waiting on them.
Right.
I thought somebody else was going to send you something saying you were late. Ron, thank you so much for being a part of the show today. Any final words of wisdom before we depart? Yeah,
I'm really glad you asked me that question, Doug. And by the way, I really appreciated the interview with you and enjoyed it myself. For the entrepreneurs, I just want to say, I am an entrepreneur. And every day we get up unemployed. And what I mean by that is we don't make money, we don't make something happen. And there's going to be good times, there's going to be bad times. You just have to stay committed to your cause, and you have to believe that no matter what, the world needs you and what you're doing. You just have to remove your ego and just be customer focused. Communicate in a message that's important to the customer, not so much about what's important to you. And when you do that, you'll be extremely successful. I live and breathe what you go through each and every day. I appreciate what you do. I believe that the economic recovery, not just of the United States, but the world, is going to be on the backs of the entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurs and small businesses will employ more people than all the bigger companies. So the world needs you. So do what you have to do. And if there's anything I can do to support you, please let me know.
Oh, incredible. Thank you, Ron. And thank you for being a part of the show today. Ron Karr, all the information will be, again, in the show notes. And thanks for being a part of the Nice Guy community, Ron.
Thank you so much, Doug. Have a great day.
Thanks. And Steve O'Brien, go ahead and take us out of here.
For the Nice Guys on Business, I'm Steve O'Brien. Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in.